Hey you handsome bastards, what's going on? And welcome to my channel. This is my first bodybuilding oriented video, and today I'm here to talk about the 1995 Mr. Olympia, featuring Dorian Yates, first place, Kevin Levrone, second place, Nasser and Sombaty, third place, and Shawn Ray, fourth place. Today we're going to look at prejudging, and this will be part 1 of the video. And after that, I'm going to review the final pose out, and then take a look at the scorecards to see what the judges saw. So without any more wasting of time, let's get it on. And we go with the first call out in the prejudging, with Dorian Yates in the middle, Kevin on the right, and Shawn on the left. The front double biceps. Now, not the best footage, admittedly, it's not, but we can say a few things. First, it's clear that Dorian's conditioning is way ahead of that of Kevin. Just look at the thigh separation, and in the torso area, the serratus. Yeah, Kevin has a very good serratus, but not as good as Dorian's, even if the picture is kind of blurry. And the separation in the abs is more or less the same. I think Kevin is making a bit of a conscious effort to flex them. Dorian overall has a harder look. We can't really see that from this shitty screenshot, but we will say this. Dorian has a better taper. He has a shorter torso and longer legs. Look at Kevin's stumpy legs in comparison to Dorian's. He also has better calves, more detailed quads, and better overall balance. But he has one big flaw that most of you watching this video already know, and it's this fucking bicep. It's torn and clearly destroys the whole flow of the pose, which otherwise would be pretty good. So I have to reward Kevin on the basis of that alone, because he has decent balance, and he has good conditioning. No, I'm not gonna lie. And the taper is not bad at all. It's just that Dorian is better of that, but the main focus of this pose is the arms and the biceps. And when there is such a difference where one has a clearly deficient bicep, I can't reward that in good conscience. So one pose is out. Next, the front lat spread, we can't really judge that because the camera sits this high and has this strange angle. Same for the side chest, but look at Dorian's conditioning. He looks twice as hard and dense as the other two guys, even from this low quality footage. Luckily we'll see some back development now. Look at that. The camera zooms in to Dorian, so we can't really compare. We will do that later. But it's safe to assume that you won the pose by a landslide. And the rear lat spread is a massacre. Bigger, thicker, denser back with way more detail. Better taper, better hamstrings, way better calves than both gentlemen, especially Shawn Ray's, whose calves look really small and underdeveloped compared to his thighs. Plus Shawn has a pretty bad taper. His narrow shoulders really hurt him in this pose, and he doesn't look as conditioned as Dorian. Kevin, on the other hand, has a great taper. It's a perfect V, and his back doesn't look dense, doesn't look thick, that doesn't look that thick, but overall, it's a great pose for Kevin, so I would put him in second place, and Shawn Ray in third. But Dorian is obviously first, with no questions asked. So let's go to the side triceps, and surprise, surprise, we can't see shit because the camera is doing us a disservice. I will freeze it right now, so we can say a few things. Again, Dorian's conditioning and execution. Kevin is a bit more, is opening up a bit too much in this pose. Shawn Ray is not even competitive. He doesn't have the mass, the thickness, nor the tricep to challenge either of these two guys. So I think Dorian would win the pose. If we had better footage, it would be even more clear, but we gotta work with what we have. So even in the abs and thighs, I could freeze now, but it would be pointless. I can't see anything. The details, yeah, I can see the abs, but not the thighs. It's such a weird angle. Now Nasser comes, and the crowd was very happy, as you saw. And front double biceps. We can't even see the other two, but I assume that Nasser would just win. He is probably the best front double biceps in the modern era, bar none, so there's no way either of these two would beat him. But in the front lat spread, Dorian is cleaning up right now. Great taper, the lats pop like beach balls, as Chris Aceto said. He has a very sunk in midsection, which is really good. He again has a very short torso, which helps with the flow of the pose, you know. Flow is underrated in the YouTube community. It's underrated, but it really helps you understand who wins a pose. Like in this case, Nasser has great width. He has good lats from the front, great balance. He has thighs that match his calves, and good detail there. He has sharp abs, but he just doesn't flow right. You know what I mean? His execution is also improper. He doesn't lift up his chest and doesn't flare out his lats as he should. So there's definitely a case to be made for Kevin getting second in this pose, because he has a better taper, better execution. I mean, he lifts up the chest, he has comparable balance, his lats seem to be more visible, and his delts seem more capped. So overall, he is a great contender. But he has this asymmetrical pack, the one he tore in '93, which really kinda ruins the flow of the pose overall, like Dorian's bicep in the front double. But the focus of the pose isn't the chest, rather the lats. So it's a really tough decision Really tough decision. But I think in real life, Nasser's extra size, he was 270 at this show by the way, would put him on top, if we are being completely honest. So I would go with Dorian first, Nasser second, and Kevin third. But not by much, mind you. So we go to the side chest, and we can't see shit. Again, not surprising. But look at how Nasser looks strange from that angle, turning too much to the front unlike the other two. And let's see some back developments, shall we? First, Dorian versus Nasser. Nasser doesn't have the details in the back, doesn't have the thick lumbar region, the spinal erectors. He has better peaky biceps from the rear, that's for sure, but Dorian's arms don't look too shitty from this angle. They look good enough. I mean, the good arm, this is the good dominant right arm, looks decent enough. He also beats Nasser in the calf department, but Nasser isn't far away. His shape is kind of strange because one of the two heads of the gastra looks bigger than the other. That's strange. He has slightly better hamstrings, but not glutes. So the conditioning, we already knew it was going to go to Dorian, but this further proves this point. And even the delts. Dorian's delts have a much more pleasing shape and look more balanced and developed overall. But only from this angle. We already know that from the front and marginally from the sides, Dorian's delts are not comparable. And about Kevin, now this is the closest we have of him hitting the pose because the camera immediately changes, but we can make a few assessments. Kevin's back is more detailed than Nasser's, especially in the rhomboid area, right there, and the traps. He has better traps overall. He has more detail in the delts, slightly more detail in the arms, but doesn't have the biggest peak. He also doesn't have nearly as big of calves, and his hamstrings, now he doesn't flex them right now, but it's safe to assume that they're not as good as Nasser's. And yeah, he has slightly better glutes, which can be indicators of better conditioning, but does Kevin win the pose overall against Nasser? That's really tough to say. I will say this. With higher quality footage, I noted that Kevin's back double biceps looked better, while Nasser's looked worse. So I think it's Dorian, Kevin, and then Nasser in third place. So, again, we need to see Nasser versus Dorian in the rear lat spread. Look at the Christmas tree. Bah! Perfect shot, right there. Nasser is awful in this shot. This is probably his worst pose alongside his side triceps, which has been historically a pain in the ass for Nasser or Sombaty. The only thing he has really good is the hamstrings, but from this low quality footage we can see that his back is atrocious. A big piece of shit, it looks like, really. No detail. The thickness isn't there. There is no taper to speak of. Yeah, he has a decent taper, but his wide waist and the bad positioning really don't help at all. He has great calves, that's a granted when we talk about Nasser, but that's a granted when we talk about Dorian also. Look at that. He has also great hamstrings and glutes details. And as we established before, his back is as big as a fucking cornfield. And I've seen a lot of cornfields in my life. And Kevin looks surprisingly small against these two, but it's surely better than Nasser. Nasser against him only wins the lower body, but in the upper body it's no match for Kevin. So again, it's gotta be Dorian first, Kevin second, and Nasser third. So this is it from another angle just to see the thickness. This is a very famous shot when Dorian is facing on the other side of Kevin. And the side tricep, we can't see anything, nothing unusual. And this will hold true for the abs and thighs as well. So again, this is the best footage I have. There is nothing else in terms of footage to use, so we better deal with what we have. And this is it. This is the end of part 1 where I talk about the 1995 Olympia. Thanks for tuning in and have a nice day.